What is up there, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks for checking out Shinsen 88 Gaming. We're back from our little hiatus, and I wanted to come back with something that made me very happy when I discovered it existed. As you can see, this is Phantasy Star Online Blue Burst Ultima. I actually didn't know that there were any servers of this game running somehow. Phantasy Star Online is one of my all-time favorites. I've done actually a long play of episode 1 on my channel. Gonna be doing a long play of episode 2 and some other stuff, but I wanted to bring this to your attention in case you weren't aware of it. If you have nostalgia for this game like I do, or even if you have never checked it out and are like, maybe I do want to check it out. The way to sign up is pretty simple. You do need an account, but you just create it through the website, which I will link in the description. And if you've played this on the GameCube or the Dreamcast, as I did, it'll look quite familiar to you. Worth noting, this is completely free, by the way. So I got 4 characters here that I've worked on. We'll jump into each of them and just take a look at some of the different environments and stuff, because for someone that has only previously played the Dreamcast and GameCube versions, Blue Burst actually has quite a bit more content. But part of the reason that I like this particular version of the game, the Ultimate version on the Ultimate servers, there also being some other servers like the Phantasy server, I think it's called. But anyways, I sort of consider this to be the Phantasy Star Online Respects Your Time edition, and we'll get into why that is. As you can see, I've put in a decent amount of time over the last few weeks. Part of the reason I was away is I was actually at a school for work, and I was gone for several weeks in a hotel room where I didn't really want to connect to anything without a VPN, so streaming wasn't as big of an option. Anyways, I ended up playing this for a lot of hours, as you can see. But let's just hop into my first character. Why not? I'll show you kind of how it works. And for those who have never played Phantasy Star Online, we'll get into that. And for those who have, we'll get into what makes this version special. It doesn't really matter. So I've also been playing this co-op with a buddy, but you can join a party. You see we got one guy in block 2. Most people tend to hang out in block 1, I think. And pretty much every time I come on, there are like 10 to 20 people playing. But we're just going to go solo. So you got episode 1, 2, and 4. If you don't know, episode 3 is a strategy card deck builder game, which is really weird but really cool. I'll probably cover that one eventually. We'll just start with episode 1. Hey. And you can play these different modes. We're going to go with normal. One person would be essentially the single player mode from like GameCube or Dreamcast. And then the difficulty levels are level locked. So we'll try just very hard since this dude's 120. Yeah, let's go. You'll notice graphics-wise, it definitely looks pretty close to Dreamcast and GameCube. However, some of the detail is a little bit better, or at least like stuff like view distance and that sort of thing. So the main reason that apparently I did a run and didn't come back previously. Let's go tech these weapons and see what they are. So for those of you who have never played Phantasy Star Online, this is a very early MMO action RPG, I guess. You've probably heard of it. Sure. The game can be played obviously solo or with friends. Up to 4 people can be in a lobby at any given time. And it plays with real-time combat, but sort of instanced for your particular lobby in the levels. And for me, the main draw of this game would be, well, first of all, the aesthetic and honestly the nostalgia. But the game has such a sense of just a unique aesthetic, and especially the music is absolutely incredible. We'll just start in Forest, why not? We'll explore a few things. Again, probably nostalgia, but I will literally listen to these songs outside of the game and just put them on and chill. But for me, other than like the aesthetic and that sort of thing, the real draw of this game comes down to hunting for rare weapons and equipment. But there are a lot of different unique weapon types, and you can switch between them on the fly to make the combat more interesting. But essentially, every single weapon attacks with a 3-hit combo. You can do a light attack, a heavy attack, or if your weapon has it, a special attack. Oh wow, I didn't even one combo that guy? Sad. So that little glow indicates that I am doing the heavy attack. Okay. Different weapons will hit single enemies or hit more than one enemy, and you kind of cater your playstyle to what area you're in and whether or not that's important. There are, I don't know exactly off the top of my head how many different weapon types, but there are quite a few. I'd say more than 10. 3 different types of characters that you can play. A hunter who is based around melee, a ranger who is based around ranged, and a force who is based around magic. Each then subcategory, or each category has its own subcategories of different character archetypes that you can play. So this guy is a human male hunter, or a humar, and then each of those will have 4 different ones. You've got androids who have higher stats and can see invisible traps, but cannot use magic, which is a actually severe handicap in the solo experience. And then you've got humans who are pretty well balanced, and then and then you have Newmen who are they look kind of like elves, I guess, but they are the most skilled in magic. So on each difficulty level, in each area, each enemy will have its own unique item drop, rare item drop. Obviously, you'll notice that plenty of items are dropping on the ground. Orange is going to be weapons, green is going to be consumables and things of that sort. Yellow is going to be money, and blue is going to be armor. Apparently I'm very over-leveled for very hard forests, but it's okay. Occasionally, and I mean occasionally because drop rates in this game are pretty low, kind of legendary in fact, you have drop rates that are like hundreds of thousands. So it's like 1 out of every 100,000 of these enemies who spawn 3 times during a normal run will drop this rare item. But that actually is part of the draw of the game, because it means that every time you find a rare weapon, it feels like a meaningful sort of experience. And that, for me, is where a lot of the joy of this game comes, is getting those weapon drops and being like, oh my gosh, I just got a Sange, you know? Something like that. Now, what makes the Ultima server, and I believe the Affinia server as well, different from playing the base game, is that I sort of define this as the PSO Respects Your Time edition, because this server has 5 times higher drop rates and experience in general than the base game, which makes leveling up and finding rare items much, much faster. Now, it still feels like an accomplishment, because it's not like you're automatically getting rare weapons every single run, but you feel more like you're making progress as you play through, instead of like, okay, well, I have to play through, you know, and fight this boss 10 times before I level up. Maybe it's more like 2 times once you get really, really strong. Max level is 200, so I'm at about 120, and you can see my mouse there. 67k to get my next level, but I think in between levels it was about 300,000 XP that I needed, and you'll see that these enemies on very hard are dropping, what, 450-ish? And of course, when we go to later areas, they will drop more than that. Now, one of the things I mentioned a minute ago was that each enemy in each area on each difficulty will have its own drop, rare drop. And that rare drop is always the same depending on your section ID, which I am a Skyly, as you can see there. This is not your zodiac sign. This is a an attribute, I guess you would call it, that's determined based on your character's name, and it determines which items you will find most likely, so certain weapon types. Skyly finds these swords. They're called swords, but they're essentially great swords that will hit multiple enemies. And then there are ones that find, rifles more often, or machine guns. They call them mech guns. Or partisans, like pole arms, more often. And that determines what enemies you can find as you go through. Or not what enemies, but what drops you will get from enemies as you go through. This means that there are a lot of different combinations of where you can find certain rare items. Certain rare items are actually Section ID exclusive, which is part of the reason why you would want to create multiple characters, not just to play the different classes, but also to have access to different rare weapons and armors and such. But because the enemy drops are predictable, this means that you can actually go into an area with the goal of farming for a specific item. This can all be done in co-op, as I mentioned, but essentially the host's section ID determines... We're going to rush through this area because I want to show you at least one boss. The host's section ID determines what drops are going to be there. Fortunately, because this game has been around for so long and is relatively popular, there are plenty of resources where you can find drop rates, what enemy drops what, and where to get it. And I think you'll see that although the combat by modern standards is very, very stiff, it does a decent enough job of flowing, and you kind of have to figure out sometimes timings with different enemy attacks, like, okay, I don't want to go light heavy because if I go heavy, he's going to smack me out of my combo, that sort of thing. Now, there are a lot of different rare weapons in the game. You'll see here I've got all of these different ones that I'm cycling through as a hunter, but we'll check out another class in a minute here. I just want to get to a boss and kind of show you the iconic dragon boss. If you have seen it, it will probably bring back a wave of nostalgia. If you've not seen it, then something. And maybe we'll get a rare drop. Who knows? You'll see even the mech gun has that 3-hit combo. It's kind of funny. So for those of you who have played the game on GameCube or Dreamcast, one of the biggest enhancements is comes in the form of some PC-specific perks. So, and by perks, I mean quality of life enhancements. So you'll notice this hotbar across the bottom of the screen. I'm actually playing this with an Xbox One controller that was natively supported, so I didn't have to do any weird finagling. Oh, look at that! We got a rare drop. That is actually an enemy part that we can take to a certain NPC to turn into a weapon. I think I have one of those back in my storage, but we'll look at storage as well in a minute. And yes, the Angry Fist is a fist-type weapon, which means it looks like we're unarmed, but I just punch dudes, kick dudes in the face. Well, kick them in the groin, punch them in the face. I was talking about... Oh yes, the PC-specific stuff. So, in addition to my bar over here on the right side, or my buttons over here on the right side, we also have a hotbar across the bottom, which means that you have a ton of additional buttons. One of the big issues on the console was, especially if you were playing a Force who was casting a lot of spells, was that you would quickly run out of hotkeys, essentially. So if I go to my customize here, by default we would have 6 different buttons. I can hold the right bumper to switch between what attack I'm doing. But now we also have 10 hotkeys for each configuration, so 20 additional hotkeys. For this dude, I've got them set up to mostly items and some spells across the top. But I'll jump into my Force character in a minute, and we'll see I've got all the different spells hotkeyed, which is a boon. compared to what we dealt with on Dreamcast and GameCube. This actually works out that I'm kind of overleveled for this area because it means we can get to the boss more quickly. One thing about this game is that it will take you upwards of an hour to get through a single dungeon. There are a limited number, and you have to be a little bit into grinding, I guess, to get something out of it. But essentially, episodes 1 and 2 each have 4 different dungeons or areas. So we've got forest, caves, mines, and ruins in episode 1. And then we've got a couple different ones in episode 2, which we'll also check out. And again, this might just be the nostalgia. It's very possible it's just the nostalgia, but to me, the game has such a unique aesthetic to it. Not just the enemy designs, which are absolutely peak. I actually used to own... Well, I used to own a physical copy, and now I have a digital copy of an art book with all the different monster and weapon designs. They are impeccable. Super unique, and really, you can look at this game and go, ah yeah, that's Phantasy Star Online. Alright. We're almost to the dragon. We should kill him pretty fast, because like I said, I'm pretty overleveled here. But we'll check out some of the other weapon types as well, just briefly, and then I'll jump into a different character. I do have some 2 rangers and a force that we can look at some slightly different weapon types. One of the things I really like, and you'll have noticed me using it quite a bit, is there is a quick equipment and item use menu that you can use to quickly switch between different weapons. So for me, the way I have my controls configured is I hold right bumper and I press the Y button, and it brings up this little menu. I can use items from here. Oh, I'm carrying an HP material. And I can cast spells from here, but it's super useful to quickly switch between weapons instead of having to go equip. There are quite a few other mechanics in the game that probably not going to go in depth into, because this is more about just the Ultima server and the fact that you can still play this. But there's a decent amount to do, although the core gameplay is this, and if this does not look interesting to you, you probably aren't going to like this game. But like for example, that little thing floating behind me is called a mag, which is a little helper that can increase your stats, cast essentially helpful spells, revive you, and that sort of thing. Alright, here's our dragon. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to this. Why not? To me, this boss is absolutely iconic. Coming all the way from back in the Dreamcast days. There's my mouse. Let's get that out of the way. Yeah, to me, this is like one of the most nostalgic bosses in gaming. Alright, let's go over to these, I guess. Attack the feet, make him fall down, and he's going to fly up in the air, and yeah, you know the drill if you played this before. We'll see if I can get his rare drop, though. Speaking of rare drops, the game, or the server, rather, does have what they call super happy, ultra great, delicious, wonderful hours, or something to that effect, which are essentially certain times that the drop rates in XP, I think XP game, but at the very least, the drop rates will be increased. So if you're hunting for a particularly rare item, that might be a good time to log on and play. Yeah, I remember this, for anyone who played this back in the day. Do you also remember that you can technically get off the map here, and he won't be able to home in on you? Good times. You should be pretty close to dead, actually. Cast some spells on him. I love that the spell casting animation with the mech guns is a kick. Quite hilarious. Yeah, that was easy. And for those of you who know, if you know, you know, this dragon can actually fall on you and deal damage after he dies. Which is pretty funny. No, but we got a tri-grinder. That's pretty good. So tri-grinder will increase the grind level on your weapon. For me right now, I think this isn't a particularly rare weapon, but it is something that's helping me in Ultimate mode. But I might just hold on to the tri-grinder for when I get something better. Alright, so let's go grab a couple more rare weapon types and just kind of show off what they are. And then I'll jump into some other characters. I don't want this to be too overly long, but it's just sort of a showcase of what the server's about and why I think you should play this game generally. Alright, so we'll take the... These are all different rare weapons that I've managed to find so far. We'll take the stag cutlery. And we'll take... This is where I will tell you about one of the other great features of this server. And that is that you can actually do these commands. So that's my account-wide bank. I have a character bank as well. Whereas on the GameCube version and the Dreamcast version, you only had your character bank, which made it a real pain to transfer items between characters. And also meant you could only fit 200 items in here. But essentially, I have a lot more space. Okay, these are in my character bank. So let's take the Gigabuma's Claw. And I'll just hop into another level real quick, just to show you some of the weapon animations, which are also really cool. Outside of the rare weapons, you have standard versions of each of these that you use while you're actually building up to and finding new rare weapons. But here's the stag cutlery, which is a Darth Maul looking thing. Pretty sick. And then the claw. Also a unique weapon type that does not have a equivalent in the standard weapons. Now, one thing you will probably notice, if you were not familiar already, is don't these look like they're just reskins of the Buma enemies from the forest? To which I answer, yeah, they kind of are. I don't know what it is, like, somehow the game keeps me super interested, and a lot of people I know super interested. But you could certainly look at that as a, really all they did is reskin the enemies and give them, like, different sounds and not really different behaviors. I mean, yeah, kind of. But just the enemy designs, I think, kind of carry it a little bit. And that you don't really know exactly what you're running into at any given point. At least until you've completed everything, of course. And then at that point, the idea is just running back through and hunting rare items, essentially. Leveling up your character and whatnot. Now, this mod also has a lot of items that are... Oh, look at that. We got another. It has a lot of different items and events and such that are unique to the mod. So are not in the base game, which is also really cool. To be perfectly honest, though, I haven't delved too far into a lot of those yet. I mean, this is a game you could spend hundreds of hours in, and I haven't even made it all the way through, like, ultimate difficulty or anything like that, which probably isn't going to happen for a little while because ultimate difficulty tends to be difficult. Now, when I say difficult, I mostly mean, like, a stat check. Like, enemies will kill you in 2 hits and knock you down, sort of thing. But, yeah. Anyways, what was that rare weapon that this guy dropped? It is, in fact, a Floen's sword. I just know that because I know what it looks like. Cool. So should we hop into another character? I'll just show you a little bit more, and maybe we'll do episode 2. Worth noting that this does have all the quests from the Dreamcast and GameCube, in addition to some Blue Burst exclusives, and also some, let's do Selene, I guess. Having an android that can't use spells is a serious handicap because you can't use the heal spell Resta, but if you're a ranger... Yeah, so we actually crashed there. I think that has to do with my recording software, probably, because I don't think I've gotten a crash in that. that way before. So we'll try episode 2. We'll go one person, and we'll just go hello. And we'll do, how about hard difficulty? So I'm a little bit lower level with this character. But I'll show you some of the ranger weapons. So obviously we have episode 1, we have episode 2, and they have their own unique layouts, aesthetics, and enemies and areas and that sort of thing. I don't actually have like as many weapons with this character, but I guess we could take that and that just to show you kind of what they do. It's hard difficulty, so I'm not particularly worried about dying. Oh, apparently I was carrying this already. Whatever. I'll show you one of the areas that has the coolest aesthetics. Yeah, you can see episode 2 definitely looks a little bit more advanced in some ways. This is like my absolute favorite area in terms of aesthetics. It just looks incredible. Unfortunately, it's kind of a pain to play. Some of the design decisions in episode 2 are a little bit baffling, but yeah, look at that. To me, this is just like quintessential early 2000s like Sega. It totally looks like a Dreamcast level, you know, even though ironically I don't think that episode 2 ever existed on the Dreamcast. Now, yep, I saw those. You can see the little areas on the ground where things are kind of distorted. That's because there are traps there. These guys are stronger than I thought they were. Now what's kind of neat is you'll notice that when I use the claw type as my human male hunter, he had a little bit of different animation. That's because most of the characters do have some unique animations. Not all of them, like maybe female characters typically have similar animations. Let's heal up here. But sometimes you get different animations depending on the class. And they can be slightly different or very different. Like this claw animation, it's completely different between characters. Episode 2, by the way, quite a bit more difficult than episode 1. Like if I was in episode 1 with this character, I would be one-cycling all the enemies for sure with my combos. But these guys are taking more than one. If you do try to hop into a difficulty that you're not necessarily ready for, be ready for some bullet spongy enemies. Or maybe not so bullet spongy, depending on if you're playing a hunter. But anyways, you can see the ranger gets the shot type weapon, which is kind of like a big launcher that functions as a shotgun, hitting multiple enemies. This is like your equivalent of the sword type weapon. You also get a rifle. I say you get a rifle, you have to find a rifle to equip it. But the rifle type weapon is similar to the handgun, but has a longer range and higher damage generally. Like I would not be able to hit that guy with the handgun. Let's see. What does the Photon Claw do as its special attack? One thing that you will get used to pretty quickly is pulling up your menu to cancel out the fact that you will slow walk in sort of a guard when enemies are nearby. So you can use this to not only run past enemies, but also dodge traps. And if you watch my long play of the GameCube version, you'll see me constantly doing this while running past traps or getting out of sticky situations. It's just kind of... Could you not? It's just kind of a trick you learn as you play through. Actually, this might tell me what the special attack does. Steals enemies' HP. Yep, let's do it. That could be quite useful, obviously, as an android. But anyways, yeah, just... To me, this is quintessential, like, Dreamcast era graphics right here. Even though, again, this was not actually on the Dreamcast. I see that little distortion. Where is it? There it is. If you get close enough, you can kind of avoid him. Oh, look at that. I didn't even know this was over here. This is a thing that'll heal you back to full health. I guess it's on the opposite side. But yeah, we definitely, like, I could see this being on, like, a Vaporwave album or something. And in fact, I'm pretty sure this is... I know some of the soundtrack has been used in Vaporwave music or future funk, but just the aesthetics of it, yeah. Increíble, you might say. But let's run through a little bit more, and I'll just show you a tiny bit more before we hop in, and I'll look at my Force character. And then maybe we'll hop back on my Hunter and look at Ultimate mode, which changes things up a little bit more. You know, I think I'm actually going to keep that Photon Claw in my inventory because the ability to recover health is going to be quite useful. You will see, however, despite the enemies being different, the locales looking different, the basic gameplay loop, or whatever you want to call it, is essentially the same. You're going to be doing 3-hit combos on enemies, running through areas that have locked doors until all the enemies are defeated, and that's just the way of it. So I think that it's a specific type of person that's going to enjoy this, and many might look at it and go, this is super boring, and I wouldn't necessarily blame you for thinking that. But again, hunting the rare weapons, seeing kind of the unique locales, and for me personally, I can just kind of get into like a zen space, I guess, if you want to call it that, where I can just kind of chill and mindlessly go through this, kind of admire the interesting visuals and just kind of get in the zone. Man, I'm getting actually rocked here. Different status effects can obviously be placed on you or on enemies. See, they got me with the slow effect there. I guess I gotta clear this entire room before it'll let me go forward. Let's go ahead and just go back and check out one more area in episode 2, just to give you an idea what it looks like. Go ahead and heal up. And then we'll check the shops, I suppose. Not that there's really that much for me to buy here. I can restock my telepipe. Now, as I mentioned, I've also been playing through this in co-op. Let's check out the seabed, maybe? Co-op works super easily. You can just create your own little server. You can put a password on it if you want, or you can hop in with randoms. I think most people are playing with passwords on, but not everybody. And you'll see, I mean, there's a decent variety of enemies that you'll take on. But ultimately, it's like, here's a dude that's going to walk towards me and hit me with a melee attack. Here's a dude that's going to fly around. Here's a dude that's going to shoot stuff at me. There's no, like, dodging enemies or accounting for enemies. Well, I take it back. There's a little bit of dodging enemies, but not really. Essentially, you are looking at stat checks in terms of damage and the amount of health and defense that you have. But it mixes it up enough to keep it interesting. Like this guy. He's going to be very difficult, and he's going to beat the crap out of me. I'll see if I can hit him with the freeze. Nice. As I mentioned, different weapons can have their own unique special attacks. Special attacks generally have much lower accuracy, so it can be harder to hit with. But I think just from this little... There you are. Just this little sample, I think you can see how great the enemy designs actually are. And see, I guess there is a little bit of dodging around, because I was able to flip into this to get out of my guard and run around his punches. So I take it back. There is a little bit more involved once you get a little bit more familiar with the controls. But aesthetically, yeah, very, very cool, right? Now, this rifle actually has a special that will cut the enemy's health in half, which can be quite useful if you feel that you are underleveled. Can be done infinite number of times, by the way. You'll see that little icon, that one. So I just cut his health in half, and then again, so he died like right away. Oh, and look at that. Those are my stat increases. The only thing that's missing is mind, because I'm an android, and I do not have the capacity to learn spells. But anyways, pretty cool, pretty cool. Let's go ahead and quit, and then I'll show you some gameplay with the Force. Not like the Star Wars Force, but the Force class. We'll see if it crashes again here, and then we'll know it's probably due to my recording software. Giovanni. Most of the names, by the way, were chosen for the specific section IDs. So, Skyly, Viridia, which finds shotguns, Purplinum finds mech guns, and Blue Full finds partisans. And I guess we could do episode 4, just to show what that looks like. Episode 4, by the way, is absolutely miserable. It's cool that it's there, but some of the designs in it, again, are questionable. I know it sounds like I'm maybe not... we got some other people in here using some unique skins. There are some commands on the server. Hey, we'll go with A again. Why not? And I'm just going to hop into hard one more time. Person. Sure. But yeah, there are some additional commands, like you can actually use a server-side command to change your section ID or your name, but it can't be done like over and over and over, so... Oh shoot, how does this work? I've only played episode 4 like a couple times. I think I have to maybe choose a quest if I'm playing on one person. Yes. Sure, we'll just pick one of these. I should have played online instead of one-person mode. But this will show you some of the quests. We're going to skip the dialogue here. And I'll show you what some of the Force weapons look like, because they're fairly interesting. There we go. Hang on a minute. Okay, apparently this is a quest where I get NPC partners. Some of those do, in fact, exist. It's Bernie. The reason I know it's Bernie is because he's in some quests in episode 1. Worth noting, by the way, the story of this game is actually fairly intriguing. It's not told to you in a direct manner. Essentially, it's something to the effect of this ship came to this planet to settle it. Everything was fine. They sent for a second ship that you arrived on. And when you got here, everybody had disappeared. There was a big explosion, everyone disappeared. And it's kind of about like trying to solve the mystery of that. Most of the story is told in the form of sort of logs that you'll find on the ground that you can read through and get some kind of interesting lore. So this is my Force character. It's primarily a spellcaster, but can use weapons as well. I have some buffs that I can cast, so attack up, defense up. I can also heal my teammates, but I also have some weapons that I can actually use. In particular, I enjoy the Hilda Blue's Cane because it casts this ice spell that can actually freeze enemies. And can also hit on its own. I have a Double Saber, which special attack on that will actually restore your TP for getting your magic back. which can be quite useful. I think that this character that I'm playing, the psobb, so that would be the human male force, is considered like objectively to be one of the worst character archetypes, but I just think his aesthetics are cool. This is a partisan type weapon that you get from completing a somewhat convoluted series of quests in the base game. There we go. Yeah, you can see just looking at my TP bar, which is my mana, essentially, the Force has quite a bit more than the Hunter did. And this is kind of how it would go were I playing with actual players. Defense material. But anyways, let's look at some of the spells that you get access to as well. So you'll see them there on the bottom of my hotbar. You've got basic ones like shoot a fireball, shoot ice that goes on a line, or hit enemies with lightning. After that, you've got more advanced versions like spinning fireballs, lightning that... Oh, level up. Lightning that links between enemies, and then this spell that the Hilda Blues Cane also casts that has a high chance to freeze. And then you have a more powerful version, like this one that hits all around, this one that hits all around. Did we do it? That was a short quest, if so. Yeah, nobody cares about this. I mean, I care, but not right now. This sword is actually pretty neat because it actually casts Foy, which is the fireball spell, with its special attack. Sort of like this casts Gibarta with its special attack. Forces get this interesting card type weapon that you basically throw at a distance. Maybe I should have actually paid attention to the dialogue because I don't know where I'm supposed to go, but we're going to cut this short in a minute here. I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of all the different content that's available. Now, episode 4 is pretty short. Don't expect like a full-length campaign. I guess that's where we're supposed to go. Don't expect a full-length campaign like you would get with episode 1 or 2. There's really just one final boss, and like I said, some of the enemies are really irritating to deal with. But it is what it is. It's more content, and it's technically optional, right? So, not a bad thing. There are also plenty of event quests that take you to unique areas. There's just a lot of content in this game. I mean, you saw that with my main character there. I had quite a few hours already, and I haven't even made it that far at all. We'll jump back to my main dude and check out Ultimate Mode really quick. Kind of give you an idea what that looks like. Ultimate Mode did not exist in the original Dreamcast version, Phantasy Star Online. It did not come out until version 2, which was also on the Dreamcast, and that was the first version that I played. Apparently my console is active. You just hit F11 to swap between hotkeys and console. We'll go back to episode 1, I guess. We'll do one person, and we'll do ultimate. All right. And we'll just hop down into an area, because why not? Let's see, well, the thing is I won't be able to survive in the Ultimate Ruins, but I guess we can peek our heads in there really quick just to see what it looks like. One of the things that's really cool about the Phantasy Star series in general, although I will not say that I've played like many of the games, is especially when they came out at first, these were sci-fi themed games where normally you would be looking at like high fantasy types of themes, which kind of contributes again to the unique sort of aesthetic and themes. These guys are supposed to be super weak, but On ultimate mode, they are not, and I really don't want to get hit. However, I do have spells that will lower... yeah, okay. Okay, buddy. Lower attack and defense of these enemies, so maybe I'll do that. Yeah. I mean, really, if you think about it, max level is 200, and this is the last area, so I really would be expected to be much higher than 121 to do this. You will notice that healing spell comes in very handy. Holy cow, 1300 XP for one enemy kill. Remember, this is multiplied much higher than what you would get on GameCube or base Blue Burst. We'll just kill this first room, let the second group of enemies spawn, and then run away, because I don't want to die. Not that there's really a big penalty when you die, because another change that this server made was you no longer drop all your money when you die. So that's kind of nice, I guess. What was really funny was on the Dreamcast version, originally, you would actually drop the equipped weapon that you had when you died, which meant that if you had, like, the most rare weapon in your inventory, you would have to go back and grab it. The Del Saber, one of the scariest enemies in existence. Might one-shot me on ultimate mode. Let's see. Oh, not even close. But yeah, the designs, right? They're just incredible. This guy will actually block your attacks if you swing at him from too close. Pretty neat. Yeah, that's about all the progress we're going to be able to make in Ultimate Ruins. So let's jump back to Ultimate Forest, and I'll show you what looks different about it. We're just about done here. There is so much more that could potentially be covered. I tried to, like I said, cater this video a little bit to people that had never played Phantasy Star Online and people that have played it but might be looking to jump back into it. So, a little bit of a jump around, grab bag type of video. And yeah, there you can see I need 316k to level up, which doesn't take too long. That's another one of the great things about the server is that, like I mentioned before, on the Dreamcast or GameCube, you might be running, 10 areas once you get to a high enough level before you even level up. With this, I feel like I'm generally leveling up like at least a couple times per play session, and you feel like you're making a little bit more progress than you otherwise would be. Oh, come on. We'll just clear like this first room, I guess. And yes, that is a katana. Glorious Nippon steel, folded thousands of times to cut through non-glorious Nippon steel, I suppose. This is just a sampling, by the way, of the different weapons and everything that are in the game. There are hundreds of weapons, many of them overlapping with different, like, the same types, but all with their own abilities and aesthetics. There are certain weapons that when you equip them together will give you different stat bonuses, and so it's not just always, although it is usually a matter of using the weapon that has the highest damage. That's not always necessarily the case. But anyways, I think we're about done here. I would love to do a little bit more Phantasy Star content, Phantasy Star Online content, and I actually will be doing some more. As I mentioned, I've done a long play of Episode 1 on the GameCube. Long play being all the way through, no commentary. I want to do that for Episode 2, probably on the GameCube, but possibly on Blue Burst. And then I'll definitely do one for Episode 4 as well, eventually. Once I get higher level characters and get some more weapons. I don't know that I would do any additional commentated content on this game, because, I mean, what you see is what you get, right? There's not too much to talk about other than what I've already talked about here. I suppose quest guides could be a thing, but those are generally fairly self-explanatory, so I don't think that's that big a deal. But anyways, that has been Phantasy Star Online Blue Burst, the Ultima server. Hey. I hope you have enjoyed this one. I am going to be back now, making content again. It's been a little while since the last one. I, like I said, got very busy with work, with family stuff, and just generally been busy. And what I found was that in the past, sometimes when I've been really busy, I've forced myself to just make stuff, and then I don't sound enthused. And if I don't sound enthused, then how can I expect anyone else to be enthused by the content, right? Oh, by the way, here's an example of one of those sort of logs that you can find. They get more story-driven as you go on. Here it's like, oh man, if only I was an android, I couldn't be affected by status effects. Hint, hint. But yeah, the upload schedule is probably going to be modified a little bit. I was trying to do one video a week, but I think that's just with how busy I am, that's not really doable. So I think it would be more important to get consistency rather than frequency. So I'm going to try one video every 2 weeks. We'll see how that goes. Might have to slow it down, but the good news is I do actually have a decent amount of content that's already pre-recorded. I've mentioned this in one of my other series, but I have a couple Elder Scrolls Total conversions. I have a bunch of long plays, some other one-off videos of different PC and console games. So yeah, look forward to that if you're interested in sticking around on the channel. If not, and you were just here for this one, I hope this was interesting and or informative, and maybe convinced you to give this a try, because I think it's well worth checking out. Anyways, I think that's about all I had for you today. So until next time, hopefully, take care, and God bless.